First story, The Whispering Shadows. I had always thought the old house on the outskirts of our town in Westwood was nothing more than an eyesore. I'd passed it countless times, ignoring the peeling paint and overgrown weeds that threatened to swallow it whole. But on one late summer night, my curiosity got the best of me. I had heard rumors, whispers from the locals. They said the house was haunted, that something lived beneath it, in the dark, suffocating under the weight of the earth. At first, I dismissed it as childish superstition. But then one evening, as I walked past the house, something unusual happened. The air grew cold, and I felt an overwhelming urge to enter. The front door creaked open as if expecting me. I walked inside, my footsteps echoing in the hollow space. The house smelled musty, like rot and decay, and the walls seemed to close in around me. I made my way to the basement door, feeling a strange pull towards it. Without thinking, I grabbed the handle and descended the stairs. The moment I stepped into the basement, I realized I had made a terrible mistake. The air was thick, heavy with something, alive. I turned on my flashlight, the beam flickering as if it was hesitant to illuminate the darkness. That's when I saw it. In the corner, just beyond the reach of the light, I saw a pair of eyes gleaming in the shadows. They were too large to belong to any animal I knew. My heart began to race as I squinted, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The eyes blinked slowly, and then it moved. It wasn't a person. It wasn't even a creature I could recognize. Its body was long and twisted, covered in pale, mottled skin. It crawled on 4 massive legs, each ending in claws so sharp they scraped the floor with a sound that sent chills down my spine. The thing's back was hunched, its spine twisting unnaturally, and its breath came in rasps, filling the silence with a guttural noise. I froze, unable to move. My flashlight dropped from my hand, the beam splintering in different directions. The creature's eyes locked with mine, and I felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to run, to escape, but my legs wouldn't obey. The creature started to move toward me, its claws tapping on the concrete floor, the sound getting louder with every step. As it grew closer, I could see its mouth, a hideous maw filled with rows of jagged teeth that glinted in the faint light. I stumbled back, my heart pounding in my chest, but the basement seemed to stretch endlessly. I was trapped. In that moment, I heard a voice. It wasn't from the creature, but from somewhere deeper in the basement, a whisper so faint, I wasn't sure if it was real. You shouldn't have come. I whipped my head around, searching for the source, but saw nothing but darkness. The creature, now just a few feet away, stopped and stared at me. It tilted its head as if pondering something. Then, in a voice that seemed to come from all around me, it spoke again. You are not alone. Suddenly, I understood. The house wasn't just haunted, it was alive. It had been waiting for someone to find it, someone to awaken the thing that had been slumbering beneath it for so long. The basement door slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping me inside. I could hear the thing breathing heavily, its claws scraping against the floor as it circled me. I backed into a corner, my breath coming in ragged gasps, knowing there was no escape. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the creature lunged. The last thing I saw was its massive, gaping mouth rushing toward me. The whispers continued. Years later, they would find me. My body would be discovered in that very basement, frozen in terror, my eyes wide open. But there would be no trace of the creature. No signs of its claws or its teeth. It would be as though I had simply vanished, and the house would remain, waiting for the next curious soul. Second story, The Echoes Beneath. I moved to Willow Creek, a small town in the middle of nowhere. It was the perfect place for a fresh start, away from the noise of the city. The house I bought was old, but charming, with peeling paint and a creaky front porch. The moment I stepped inside, something felt off, but I brushed it off as the usual unease that comes with new places. The basement door was the first thing that caught my attention. It was odd, Locked, but the key was left on the kitchen counter. I tried to ignore it for the first few days, but curiosity gnawed at me like a persistent itch. Why had the previous owners locked it? What was so dangerous down there? I couldn't resist any longer. The key turned easily in the lock, and the door creaked open, revealing a dark, musty staircase that seemed to descend into the very bowels of the earth. The air was thick with mildew, and I could hear my heartbeat thudding in my ears as I stepped down. Each step groaned under my weight, as though protesting my presence. The basement was exactly as I expected, dusty, filled with old furniture covered in sheets, and a faint smell of something rotten. But there was something else. Something alive. In the far corner of the room, an old rocking chair slowly moved back and forth, despite the fact that there was no breeze. My breath caught in my throat as I stepped closer, heart racing. The chair creaked again, and the faintest whisper echoed from the shadows. Leave. Now. The voice was barely a whisper, but it felt like it came from every corner of the room. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I couldn't tear myself away from the chair. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and for a split second, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A figure, tall, pale, with hollow eyes, standing just behind the chair. It grinned, a twisted, grotesque smile, and then vanished as quickly as it had appeared. I stumbled back, tripping over something heavy. My hand found the wall, and I turned to find a door, one I hadn't noticed before. It was slightly ajar, and a faint light flickered from within. I pushed the door open, and what I saw inside made my stomach churn. The room was filled with old photographs, hundreds of them, pinned to the walls, faces of people I didn't recognize. And in each photograph, there was something strange. A dark figure, barely visible, lurking in the background. I was about to turn and leave when I saw a new photograph, freshly pinned to the wall. It was of me, standing in the basement, holding the door open. But I hadn't taken the photo. The camera had been on the other side of the room. My blood ran cold, and the whispers returned, louder this time. You're not supposed to be here. I backed away slowly, but something stopped me. A cold hand grabbed my ankle, and I screamed, falling to the floor. Something was pulling me, dragging me towards the center of the room. I clawed at the floor, trying to fight it, but it was too strong. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut, trapping me inside. The lights flickered out, plunging the room into darkness. I could feel something closing in on me, something that had been watching me all along. The whispers grew louder, more frantic. You shouldn't have come here. It's too late now. Then, just as quickly as it had all begun, everything went silent. I woke up in my bed the next morning, drenched in sweat. I checked my phone. Everything seemed normal. But then I received a notification. A photo had been uploaded to my phone. It was a picture of me, lying in bed, eyes wide open in terror. The timestamp? Just a few minutes ago. The basement door was locked again, the key gone, but I could still hear the rocking chair faintly from below. And the whispers? They haven't stopped. I'm not alone in this house anymore. Neither are you. Third story, The Hollow Below. I never thought it would end like this. I should have known when I first moved into the old house on Birch Street in the quiet town of Greenville. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and the nights are quieter than the grave. I wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble found me the moment I stepped inside. The house was a bargain, and my budget didn't allow me much luxury. The real estate agent told me it had a history, but nothing too serious. They didn't mention the basement, though. The moment I set foot in it, I knew something wasn't right. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks. Old houses creak and moan, right? But the air down there was thick, almost suffocating. I chalked it up to mold or something, but every time I went down, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, like I was being watched. A few days after I moved in, I started hearing things. Soft whispers. just beyond the reach of my hearing, like something was murmuring from the dark. At first, I tried to ignore it, but one night, as I sat alone in the living room, the whispers grew louder, sharper. They came from the basement. I grabbed a flashlight and went downstairs. The beam of light flickered as I descended the stairs, and I felt a cold chill run down my spine. The basement was large, more so than I expected. Boxes were scattered about, some old, some still packed, untouched. But what drew my attention was the far corner, where the floor seemed different. It wasn't quite right. The wood there was warped, like it had been pushed up from underneath. A strange, dark stain surrounded it. Without thinking, I stepped closer. That's when I saw it. A trapdoor. The hinges were rusty, and the wood was old, but there was something about it that felt alive. I knelt down, hesitant, and pulled on the latch. It creaked open with a disturbing noise. Below was nothing but pure darkness, the kind of darkness you can almost touch. I didn't want to go down. I knew better, but my curiosity got the best of me. I stepped down into the hole, holding the flashlight in front of me. The air grew even colder, and the further I went, the more the whispers seemed to grow, coiling around me like a tightening rope. The steps creaked under my weight, and I thought I heard something skitter in the shadows. I reached the bottom of the stairs, and for a moment, all was silent. I swung my flashlight around, but it only revealed the same old crumbling stone walls, the same damp air. Nothing unusual, but the whispers, they were louder now. They were no longer whispers. They were words, calling to me, begging me to look closer. I followed the voice deeper into the darkness, unable to resist. My heart pounded in my chest as I neared the farthest corner of the room. That's when I saw it. The thing that shouldn't have been there. A figure. Pale and gaunt, its eyes black holes in its face. Its mouth was stretched in an unnatural grin, its teeth sharp, glistening in the flashlight's beam. I froze, unable to move, unable to breathe. The figure tilted its head, watching me as though it were waiting for me to make a move. It spoke, its voice like gravel being ground underfoot. "You shouldn't have come down here." My breath caught in my throat. I tried to scream, but the sound was choked in my chest. My legs moved on their own, stumbling backward, but my feet refused to leave the ground. I turned to run, but the moment I took a step, the trapdoor slammed shut with an ear-splitting bang. Panic surged through me. I pounded on the floor, the walls, anything I could reach, but nothing happened. The figure was getting closer, its smile widening. "Trapped," it whispered, "forever." I tried to escape, but the darkness closed in around me. The air became thick, suffocating. My mind was fogging up, and I could barely think. All I could hear was the sound of my heartbeat in my ears, the whispers, and that awful, twisted smile. When they found me, weeks later, the basement was empty. No sign of the trapdoor, no sign of the figure, just an old, damp basement. The only thing left behind was the faintest echo of a whisper, like a memory that refuses to fade. And that's when I realized the house wasn't just haunted. It was alive.